everyone, I'm Dawn. Thank you for joining myself and Sport Singapore today once more. And I will be teaching today certain exercises and stretches that you can do for those of you suffering from back pain. It's something that many of us actually do suffer from, and you think that it's actually quite normal, but it's not. Any pain is never normal. It's common, okay, but there are many things that actually you can do to help yourself, right? So most of the time is actually caused by lifestyle issues, bad sitting posture, having to sit at your desk for very long hours, and it may not be the most ergonomic position for yourself. Or you may have a screen on your right side. If you sit in an L-shaped desk, many things that we have going on in our day-to-day lives can be contributing to that pain. It may not be a genetic issue, right? So if that's the case, there are still many things that you can do to help to alleviate yourself of those discomforts, but it will take time, right? It took time for the pain to set in. It is also going to take you time for you to undo that. For today's practice, we are going to use a yoga mat as well as a towel, a bath towel. Not a face towel, but a bath towel because it has to be that thick. Okay, so let's come into all fours first. And this is also non-impact, zero impact, very friendly. For those of you who are just starting out and have never done yoga before, you've never done any exercise before, this is also suitable for you, right? So let's come onto all fours with your towel, perhaps cushioning your hands, cushioning your wrists if need be, right? So you're gonna have our fingers spread open with your index fingers pointed more towards the front. You're gonna have your knees about hip-width distance apart as well. And this cat-cow movements are going to help you to warm up your spine and your core before we start to do more movements there, right? So let's get the blood flowing, let's get the blood pumping. As you inhale, try to look up. As you exhale, round your backs. Understand that for those of you suffering from back pain, this will be already pretty difficult and uncomfortable. Inhale. So if you need to, just start with small movements, all right? A baby movement of what I'm trying to do here is fine, all right? And let's do 3 more here. As you exhale, tuck your chin in towards your chest. 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale, tuck your chin in towards your chest. 1 more time. Inhale. And exhale. And stop. Now I'm going to have you bring your knees towards one another, and you're going to have your hands about shoulder width distance apart. Let's start easy first. This next movement is going to be able to help you to strengthen your low back, right? And we're going to strengthen the hips at the same time. So we're going to lift your left leg up at the same time if you can. You're going to try to raise your right arm towards the front. If possible, you're going to keep it here for about 8 to 10 breaths, observing how you are resting your weight on that arm that supports you, right? So avoid sagging your weight down towards the ground. Push into the floor instead, right? And switch on those muscles that support that shoulder joint, right? Let's hold it here for another 4 more breaths. Every time you exhale, try to imagine you're trying to say ha, but your mouth is closed, right? Holding it here for another 2 more. 1 more. Being so conscious of your breathing and using this method of breathing is going to help you switch on your inner core muscles, your deep core muscles, right? Let's change it over to the other side. Right leg extends up, and we're going to take your left arm up as well. And then noticing if it's easier or harder on this side. Imagine if I were to put a tray of tea on your back, you are trying to balance it right now. Okay, so we're going to hold here for 8 to 10 breaths as well. Right, making sure that your belly wall is firm. So every time you exhale, still trying to do that ha, H-A, but your mouth is closed. Every time you inhale, try not to tense up your shoulders as well. All right, so over time, this is going to help you to strengthen those back muscles as well as your hips that supports your spine. Let's hold it here for another 2 more breaths. 1 more breath. And then very slowly lower both hands and your knees down towards the ground. Sitting back on your heels, just go ahead and rotate around those wrists, release the tension from your wrists, and I'll let those hands rest for a while. The next movement that we're going to do is called a low lunge, right? And I'm going to have you start off with your knees on the towel for cushioning. You're going to come into a kneeling position. Now, I would encourage those of you who have issues with balancing to have a stool or a chair or maybe a table or a wall to hold on to for balance if need be, right? And if you have no issues at all, you're going to have your right foot come forwards, right? Take one step to the front. Now, the distance between your front foot and your back knee has to be wide enough to allow you, notice that I'm wiggling my foot forwards, okay? It has to be wide apart enough to allow you to sink your hips forwards and down. So if your foot was too close towards your hips, you'd be in this position right now. I don't really feel much of a stretch along the front of my left hip. For whichever leg is behind, we're gonna feel that stretch of the hip, right? So I'd like you to take a bigger step forwards. You can wiggle the foot like I did earlier, or you can just really just lift your foot up and take a bigger step, right? Now from here, keep your belly wall firm. So we are not going to arch our back in order to lower the hips forwards, all right? Watch your back. You're gonna instead try to keep your baby crunching muscles on as you shift your hips forwards and down, all right? So if you're kind of like going only a little forwards and you already feel a stretch to the front of your left hip, that is just how it is like for you for a start, okay? A good practice is one that gives you benefits and it doesn't cause you more stress or strain, okay? So do not expect yourselves to look like how I'm going into the pose exactly, right? As long as we feel the stretch or the work happening at the same position, that's just how it looks like for you for now, right? So forget about the aesthetics and just start to notice whether or not you're feeling the stretch and the work going on where it is supposed to, right? So I will keep telling you where I need you to feel the stretch or the work, and your job is to make sure that you feel it, right? Not just to form a shape. So keep sinking the hips forwards if your body allows you to. Do not go to the point where you start to hold your breath, right? So you should always be able to breathe in and out deeply as you hold the stretch. This is a stretch, right? So happens along the front of your left hip, but actually that muscle connects kind of to your lower back, crosses over the front and inserts to the top of your thigh, right? I'm going to shift the hips forwards more if you can. If you cannot, just stay there, right? That's as long as you feel the stretch, right? Just hold it there. The next week, the next month, you come into it again. After a consistent practice, you should be able to go a lot further. And then shift your weight back and then take your right leg back. Knees are side by side. How long should you stay there? A minute if you can, right? So you can time yourself, or if you want to go by the number of breaths, you can go 8 to 10 breaths as well, right? Don't rush with the breathing. Just because it's 8 to 10 breaths, sometimes people go like very quickly. Don't. Take your time, breathe slow in a relaxed fashion. All right, now I'm going to shuffle, shuffle, shuffle the foot forwards once again, and then shift your hips forwards and down. And then making sure that you're not pushing yourself too hard too soon, nor do you want to be leaning forwards, okay? So you notice that I'm trying to keep my shoulders over my hips as I hold this position, and the baby crunching muscles are still switched on, okay? So that prevents me from overarching my back, causing me discomfort around the back as well, right? So we're gonna make sure that we feel that stretch across the front of the hip and not create more problems elsewhere. Remember, you can hold on to that chair, that stool, that wall, that table for support if you need to, right? And then allow yourself to close your eyes if you're not losing your balance. To on and off, take your attention more to your breathing. I like to do that, okay, because sometimes our mind can be clouded with a lot of other thoughts, distracting thoughts of work, of what we need to do next, what we got to do. There are a lot of to-dos, right? But the moment we start to allow our mind to be all over the place, the body starts to feel stressed as well. Okay, so just take your attention to one thing, that is your breathing. It can help to calm down the body, and the stretch can be more beneficial as well. We're going to shift the weight back now. Slide your leg to come back in. Very nice. Now, the next group of muscles that we're going to be stretching are your hamstrings. And these muscles can actually cause a lot of discomfort around the lower back, the back of your hips area, if they are very tight. And actually, for most of us, it is very tight because as long as you're seated for long hours, these muscles stay shortened, right? So they attach all the way to the back of your lower leg. When you straighten the leg out, they stretch. when you bend your knees from sitting down for too long, they stay short. And if you're there for hours and hours, day after day after day, month after month after month, and year after year, it's no surprise if the muscles become very taut and they affect the insertions as well, right? So we're going to come into a seated position. Grab a hold of your towels and open them out. While we are stretching the hamstrings, it is important for us to not strain the back at the same time. In order to do that, we may need to have to bend the knee, right? So I'm going to have my right leg bent inwards, like so, and my left leg is extended towards the front, like so. So if you need to, bend that knee, okay? Because this is going to be a lot kinder to your lower back, right? So from here, I'm going to use my towel. I'm going to place it at the bottom of my foot. It's like an arm extension, right? Not that my arms are very short, but if your hamstrings are very tight, it might be an issue for you to try to reach for your ankle or your foot, okay? So go ahead and use the towel to help you have leverage to pull your body forward. But if you start to feel that strain around your lower back, please bend your knee and then lean forwards, right? So if you're able to, you straighten that leg, pull and lean forward. So if you're only coming down a wee bit, right, a tiny little bit, and you already feel an intense stretch along the back of your thigh, that's just how it's going to look like for you, okay? So if you can, you're going to bring your chest closer towards your thigh while keeping that leg straight. Now, be mindful not to round your back or just drop your head down towards your knee, which is so commonly seen, all right? So the goal of this movement, single leg forward fold, is to stretch your hamstrings. It is not for your head to touch your knee, right? Because it's very easy to just round your back and go into that slouch or that hunch in order to get your forehead to touch your knee, but you're going to create more chaos for your back at the same time, right? So rather, you should think about bringing your chest or your torso closer towards your thigh. That is a more beneficial stretch for you, right? Affecting the hamstrings and making sure that you do not hurt your low back even further. Holding it here for about 8 to 10 breaths, or you can time yourself a minute or even 2 if you can, right? The longer you can stay, the more beneficial it is for your hamstrings, right? And the insertions as well. Now, very slowly, we're going to release, coming back up. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. You know, if you stay there for too long, right, and you're not very used to it, sometimes the leg just goes to sleep. It goes numb. It is a tingling sensation as well, because circulation is not optimum yet. It's not really good yet. So blood deprivation, or, you know, just parts of your body getting cut off or with the blood supply, it can go to sleep, right, after a while. So just pace yourself, increase the duration gradually, right? Now, towel goes under the other foot now. So again, bending your knee if you need to, straightening if you can, right? Now take an inhale. And as you exhale, melt deeper into the stretch. Do not rush into it, right? So I'm going to try to square my chest in the direction of my straight leg, thigh, and then melt gradually, breath after breath. If I feel okay, I melt some more, all right? So never rushing. Every exhale, I melt a little further. And if that is the maximum, I'm just going to stay there and continue breathing until I'm done with 8 breaths, 10 breaths, or 1 minute, 2 minutes, depending, right? So at the same time, don't forget to pull and try to bring your crown closer towards the direction of your foot. This ensures that you're straightening, lengthening out the spine versus just collapsing down as well, right? I'm going to hold it there for another 2 more breaths, observing your breathing. And it's a very safe environment for you. You're not going to lose your balance, right? So if it helps to close your eyes and take your attention to your breathing, do that. But sometimes, you know, we're surrounded by kids, we're surrounded by friends, or the television is on. It can get quite distracting, right? So I would actually prefer to do this in the morning before everybody wakes up, right? So there's less distractions and I can actually take my attention to my breathing as well. It's a more beneficial practice. Okay, now we're gonna have your towel folded up this way, like so. and it's going to go to the front of the mat. I'm going to have you lay belly down onto the floor on your mat, and you're going to rest on your forearms. So this is what we call a sphinx, but I'm going to have you take your hands further back. So two things happening here. I want you to use your hands and use your back to press yourself to come up to this position here. So here's your cobra, press to come up and try to look forwards at the same time. Avoid hunching or slouching, all right? So your shoulders draw away from your ears. Now, if you can only come up a little bit, then so be it, right? Especially if your back is really weak and it's very tight, you're gonna only take a baby cobra movement up. If you can, you're gonna come up higher, right? So I'm using my back, I'm using my arms to come up into this position, arching my back, looking forwards. What this does is it creates space along the front side of my spine, all right? I'm gonna hold it there for another 3 more breaths. Of course, if you need to, come down lower. Maybe the hands have to come further forwards, and that's okay, right? See what your body allows you to do. 1 more breath here. And then very slowly lower it down. Rest your hands and your forehead to the front. Normal breathing in and out through your nose. A couple of breaths. And then very slowly coming back up. I'm going to have my hands rest on the sides of my ribs once again. I'm going to push up onto my knees, and then I will separate my knees and sit back onto my heels. This is what we call child's pose, extended child's pose, right? I'm resting my forehead down on the ground. At the same time, I'm walking my arms towards the front. Couple of things happening here. The lower back is getting a stretch. I'm extending through my spine as my arms are reaching forwards. My forehead rests down. So this is really calming, right? For those of us who suffer from a lot of stress, anxiety, this is a really nice pose to go into, right? So I would actually like to close the eyes and stay right here observing the breath. If your shoulders feel tense, feel free to bend your arms, rest your forearms on the ground, or perhaps even taking your arms back in the direction of your feet. You are still getting that stretch along your lower spine, around your lower back, but the shoulders are free to relax in this position here. We're going to hold it for 2 more breaths in child's pose or extended child's pose. Either one will do. 1 more breath. And then very slowly roll to come back up. So it's very, very relaxing to stay there. And you can actually take a micro nap while you're there as well. So those are some very simple and easy to do movements that you can practice if you suffer from back pain. Of course, there are many others, so do stay tuned. Thank you so much once again for joining myself and Sport Singapore. I hope to see you all again very soon. Bye.